This week on WNIN Newsmakers, we'll be talking about local road projects, including the timeline for construction on the Lloyd Expressway. That's next on WNIN Newsmakers. Welcome to WNIN Newsmakers. I'm April Nading. Anyone driving along the Lloyd Expressway lately has seen the billboards. Work is about to begin on the Lloyd Expressway. Here to give us more details is Nicole Minton, Public Outreach Manager for the Lockmuller Group, representing the Lloyd for You project. Thank you for joining us today. That was a mouthful, wasn't it?
It's a lot.
So let's talk about the overall project. What improvements to the Lloyd are planned?
So from Posey County line all the way to Warwick County, we have improvements staggered throughout the corridor that are going to make the facility more efficient and safer. It's going to get that east-west traffic moving with coordinated signals. And there are going to be some new types of intersections that are new to Evansville, but have a good history of making intersections safer and more efficient, and we're excited to introduce the public to those.
So tell us about the thing that's new to Evansville area.
So the displaced left turn is a type of innovative intersection that moves the left turns to the outside of the facility. So essentially you're going to make a left turn in 2 steps. First step, when you would normally be idling at a red light waiting for your left turn signal, you're going to cross over to the outside of the facility. And then when the light turns green, it'll turn green for the left turns and the through traffic, and double the amount of time for green light and efficiency along the Lloyd.
So when you say crossing the facility, what are you talking? I don't know what that means exactly.
So you have oncoming traffic that will be stopped for your north-south traffic. When the north-south traffic is moving across the Lloyd, say at Burkhart or Cross Point, and those vehicles are moving north-south, your left-hand turns that want to head north or south onto Burkhart or Cross Point are going to cross over the traffic while it's stopped and move to the outside lane. So now you'll have a left turn lane, you'll have traffic moving this direction, traffic moving that direction, and then on the other side, another left-hand turn lane. I promise it sounds It sounds complicated,
chaotic.
but it's really, compared to a roundabout where you have to make a decision, can I get in the circle, can I not? This is very easy to understand. You follow the sign, it says South Burkhart Road. You get into that lane that will have medians that will guide you to where you need to go. There'll be a stoplight that tells you stop when it's time to stop, and a light that says green when you're gonna queue up on the outside of the road. And then the light will turn green, and we all go for twice as long as we normally do. There are videos on theLloydForYou.com that demonstrate how to navigate the intersection. Like I said, it sounds complicated because it's hard to visualize. There's a displaced left turn that was installed at in Indianapolis at Thompson and 31, and it is performing really well. Traffic used to back up all the way to 465 onto the ramp. And now it's a very efficient way of moving traffic through that. You also get rid of the more dangerous left-hand turns that happen in front of traffic. So it's a safer facility on top of being more efficient. So that is the type of turn that was put in Indianapolis, performing really well. We have one of those going in at Epworth. That's not a part of the Lloyd for You project, but a lot of people have probably seen that construction at Epworth and have dealt with the orange barrels. It's coming soon. June, July, that project is going to open up.
Really?
And we'll be able to see how much more efficient that stoplight, that traffic signal will perform, because it's coordinated to move more traffic through in the same amount of time.
Because I pass by that almost every day. And what is confusing to me when I'm looking at it, it seems like there's this humongous median. And I think, what is that for? But you're saying that's going to help direct the traffic.
Yeah, so that will help guide those vehicles into place so that they're ready to make their left-hand turn at the same time as through traffic moving.
Okay, I'm gonna go online and look at it.
Absolutely.
I'm writing that down because I have a hard time visualizing it in my head.
Yeah, so they're pretty popular in other states, and it's one of those things that we have a new way of doing things, and it's unfamiliar, and a lot of us are kind of resistant to change. And I felt the same way that when I drove through one for the very first time. I thought, it was uncomfortable, but it's really hard to, as long as you're paying attention and your phone is down, and you're looking at the signs, you're going to be able to catch when it is that you need to, because you will get into position for that left turn before you get to the intersection.
Okay.
And so you're going to have to make that decision ahead of time to get into your left-hand turn lane. If you make a mistake, it's a matter of going to the next intersection. Don't try and fix it in the middle of the intersection and make your own left turn lane. Just go on down to the next intersection and come back to where you need to go. It really is pretty intuitive, and the signing helps people understand this is where I need to go and how I need to be in line to make those intersections work really well.
And where are those going to be? You're going to add 2 more? Is that what you're saying in Evansville, or 3 more?
3.5. We're going to have one at Cross Point, at Burkhart. At Stockwell, we have a hybrid solution so that it will have one. If you're going from eastbound Lloyd onto northbound Stockwell, we'll have a displaced left turn. If you're headed westbound on the Lloyd and want to go south on Stockwell, like to the State Hospital, Red Cross, that's a boulevard left turn, which is another innovative intersection that's a little unusual for our area, but very popular in other places. And essentially in that situation, you'll have a turn signal that you'll queue up and basically do a U-turn and then a right turn.
I've seen those in other places.
So that's signalized there. So no decision making, no trying to jet across traffic. When that light changes, you'll make the U-turn and then turn right to head on to Stockwell. And then we also have another displaced left turn going in at Red Bank.
Okay. Well, I can only assume that because you say they do this in other states, that they don't just randomly or haphazardly decide to do these.
So the reason that this works really well is because we have an existing facility that is surrounded by businesses and homes. And so some of the transportation solutions that most people are requesting, like an overpass or an interchange, they're very, very expensive. $26 million compared to $6 million for a displaced left turn. And that's $20 million that's not going to improving other facilities and improving safety in other places. So by using a displaced left turn, which is much more cost efficient and provides great efficiency improvements, we can use that money on other projects to keep other people safer as well.
Okay, so that makes sense then. Okay, so when and where is everything starting? I assume you're not going to do all of them at once.
No, and I think that a lot of people know that this is a big project. It is phased, and there will be certain sections that will have longer time lengths. So the first 2 projects that we're starting with are at Stockwell and Van. At Van Avenue, that traffic signal is being removed. The left turns are going away, and it will be a right in, right out facility with stop signs. So no more coming over the Bakey overpass and seeing stop traffic and hoping that you can brake in time for those stopped vehicles. That will all keep moving now. And then, like I said, at Stockwell, we'll have the displaced left turn and a boulevard left turn going in. That construction season begins right about now. We're already doing utility relocations. The lane closures that you're gonna see, that's gonna happen more towards this summer. Same thing for the far west side. So all the way from Posey County line to around Barker, that area will start on those projects. There's a lot of them. And the west side doesn't have the ease of mobility like we do on the east side. So the west side has a railroad and a river, and there just aren't as many corridors for navigating around the Lloyd. And so for the west side, I see a couple of years of really grueling it out. And that's gonna mean signing up for notifications so you know when changes are gonna be happening with the construction, because that whole section won't be under construction at the same time. We're gonna remove all the pavement. It's gonna go all the way down to dirt. no more patching, no more bumpy ride. It's going to be great when it's done, but we're going to have to put up with the fact that all that pavement's coming out and it's all getting replaced. But again, not at the same time. And then same thing with the intersections. The intersections will be done. Some of them will be happening at the same time, but it will be phased. You won't have, the headache for the entire length of the project, depending on what your commute is. And I would really recommend that if people are, see what the peak time is, we have cameras that are going up at each intersection so that we can monitor the signal timing, but that will also give us an idea of when the real peak pinch points are happening. So is it early morning for the morning commute? Is it that coming home at the end of the day? If you can avoid the Lloyd, maybe leave a little sooner during those times, it would be a great strategy. Or find an alternate route, maybe avoid certain sections of the Lloyd during certain times of the day.
That sounds like the catchphrase, avoid the Lloyd.
Avoid the Lloyd. We should have put it on a billboard.
But are you going to have recommended detours? I mean, it
Yeah.
seems like, in front of, or at Epworth and Lloyd, you don't have to make a detour. I mean, it's
Right.
just cut down to 2 lanes rather than 3.
And we'll have the same thing for this project. There will always be 1 lane of traffic open in each direction. You won't ever have to go take another route. But there will be times when, say, all of the traffic is moved to the north side of the Lloyd because they're working on the south side. Well, if everything's moved to the north side and you typically make a right-hand turn off of the Lloyd onto Lemke or something, you might not be able to do that. And so in that case, you might have to go down to Barker and circle back to it. There will be detours in place for anywhere between 5 and 30 days, most of those closures when you can't make a right-hand turn off the facility. But as far as just navigating up and down, you'll always have at least 1 lane of traffic, and in a lot of cases, 2 lanes.
Okay, so
for
it's
getting
never
up and
just
down.
closed and you have to figure out what the heck is going
No,
on.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
And they'll have it marked, I'm sure.
Yes, yeah. And again, that is what we're using. The newsletter and our email alerts will let you know when those changes happen. There's a period of time where if you're headed eastbound on the Lloyd, you're not going to be able to turn right and head south into, like, say, Target or that shopping area at the Burkhart intersection. It's a short amount of time, but you got to plan for it, right? So there's the option of getting off sooner and taking, say, Fielding over to Lincoln and coming in the back way, or maybe you just go past Burkhart and you turn into the little business, lane back there at the back of Target to access those businesses. And we want to be good partners to all the businesses that are going to have to operate through this construction season. So making people aware ahead of time of how they can still access those businesses. We don't want anyone to feel like they're cut off from their customers. And so we're going to work really hard with those businesses to make sure that they're aware of when changes are coming so they can alert their customers. We've got pop-up banners that are going to go into different businesses just so, people see the different, ways to be aware of the changes on the project.
I mean, we don't want to be cut off from Target at Christmas.
No. And this is what when people see the orange barrels, I just want them to know that the next Christmas season, that traffic is going to be much less severe, right? That's what these solutions are working towards. Obviously, it's about safety and efficiency, but there are, areas where we know traffic backs up and you have to sit through, several signals, rotations, and that's going to be really alleviated with these projects. That Christmas crunch time is going to move more smoothly.
So what's the timeline for when will it all be done?
2028. All of it. But there are portions like Van and Stockwell will be done, around the end of 2025. So we're looking at a year. And then Crosspoint and Burkhart will start up after those are done. At the same time as Van and Stockwell, you'll have some of those West Side projects going. Those will wrap up and they'll move on to like St. Joe and Wabash area. So it's not all going to happen at the same time, but we are going to be living with detours and some congestion related to construction.
Check the website, mark your calendars. All right. Thanks so much for sharing. Now joining us is Gary Bryan, Public Relations Director for the Southwest District of the Indiana Department of Transportation. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
So let's start with, we just had the eclipse. Yeah. And how did we hold up as far as that goes with roads and stuff?
Yeah, we did pretty good. I'd like to think, our messaging, we've been talking about this for months now. NDOT, along with the Indiana State Police, have really been working to try to make sure people understood to get there early, stay put, leave late. And I hope that messaging was the reason. But yeah, outside of just south of Evansville, in our district here in kind of the edge of the chicken nugget, as I call it, of Indiana, we did pretty good. And, we had a few places along I-65 in other regions. So kind of, I think those folks heading back to Chicago or to Louisville, we had some pretty decent congestion there. And I think that's where we really saw those big congestion places. But here in our area, we did pretty good. I'm pretty happy about that.
Well, was the congestion mostly, was it before and after, like right before and right after, or when was that?
Well, it was kind of a little bit of both. I-65 coming from Louisville to Indy seemed like it had a lot of congestion before. And then really after.
That's what I wondered if that was.
Yeah, Lafayette. I think it was probably a lot of folks going to Chicago, heading back home. A lot of congestion up there.
Because I know I even had some relatives who came in from St. Louis, but they came in on Sunday.
Yeah.
And then didn't leave until Tuesday.
That's the right thinking.
That's right.
That's what we've been encouraging folks. And, I think I think everybody kind of thought it was going to be the whole state is saturated with cars. And what we were really concerned about is those points. Everybody's going to the same place. Right up here, everybody's going to the Twin Bridges. So, that's where congestion was.
That was
really
where
happening.
I heard the biggest problem was. But did you, I heard people saying beforehand, they were warning people to have food and blankets and all that. But was there anything like that where you think people were actually kind of stranded for a long amount of time?
I can't say as far as like I-65 goes. Because we were putting out a lot of that messaging, and a lot of the thought was just in case. You would hate to get stuck in traffic we've heard in the last eclipse now, over in Illinois, folks getting stuck in traffic for 3-4 hours.
Okay.
And obviously, if you don't have enough gas or don't have enough, snacks or things, it could become an issue. It's kind of the same thing when we have a winter storm. You want to make sure you have all your supplies if you need them.
I'm a big believer in always traveling with snacks and water.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you want to anyways. If you're traveling somewhere, you got to get snacks. That's when it's okay.
Sure. What about, so we had some recent tornadoes.
Yeah.
Any kind of damage to the roads that the state is working on?
Yeah, so our state roads fared pretty well. I know we may have had a few quick closures with trees down, but those actually pretty well cleared out for us. I know the county down here and city had to deal with a lot more than we did. Actually, the most we had to deal with was our sub-district. So we have sub-districts in different cities, and here in Evansville, ours is just north or just south of I-64. And had a couple of our brine barns that store all that stuff for winter ops got blown over, had power lines knocked over. So we were affected in that way, and we're actually still cleaning up there. But as far as the roads go, we got pretty lucky this time around.
So I know we've already talked about some of the projects coming up,
Yeah.
in particular along Lloyd Expressway. What are some of the others that you can tell us about that are going on in this area?
So I think the thing that I'm trying to stress to everybody is patience. We have a lot of projects coming up. We already, just firing off first, we've got a lot of work on US 41 through Evansville. On the north side, if you will, between Diamond Avenue and the Lloyd, we have a project coming, or that is currently working right now. We're going to be having alternating lane closures. So basically, sometimes it's going to be closed here, sometimes it's going to be closed there, and we're going to be resurfacing that road.
Is that the main thing? I mean, they're not putting in any of the crazy turn signals?
No, we're not doing that. It's just basically, if folks have driven on US 41, I know I have decent potholes. It was getting pretty long. So, we're resurfacing that entire roadway there. Kind of, I wouldn't say it's a continuation after the Pigeon Creek Bridge, but it kind of seems that way. So we're working on that right now. That work is going to be going through November. It's going to be a pretty long project. Again, we're repaving the whole stretch on both sides. So definitely be ready for that. Let's just keep on moving on. I've got a list of them. So south of the Lloyd, everybody knows or probably has heard about our pedestrian bridge there at Boise High School.
Long time coming.
A long time coming. We're really excited about that project. If you've driven that way, you can see we're really getting work on it. Last time I checked, we were working on some of the struts that hold the bridge up, that ramp that goes up, starting on the east side, and we'll be progressing across and over. That project's still slated to finish up by the end of the year.
Really?
Yeah, the bridge part of it. So we're
I mean, will people be walking on it?
yeah, should be.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I don't want to say it's not a hard project, but it's one that's a little easier than, say, 41 and paving.
Okay.
But we will still have work going on during that because we'll be having a reduced conflict intersection, or as Nicole mentioned, a boulevard left being installed at that intersection. So that part of the project, about spring of next year, May 2025 or so, everything will be done out there. But the pedestrian bridge, we're looking at the end of the year. So
Because how many people cross there? I mean, it's a lot. Right?
I don't have numbers, but I would think it's a lot because, every time school is in session, you've got kids going back and forth. And I mean, that's the whole point of the project in general, is to get those kids across safer and just provide a more safe intersection.
What about I-69? I think there's some lane closures along there.
Okay.
I've driven along that way myself.
Yeah. Well, we do have some lane closures up there. We're doing a little bit of finishing up the concrete patching that we were doing last year. So we did have some, I want to say it's a little closer to Evansville. And so kind of finishing up that project, if you will. We're also doing, it's kind of interesting, we're doing some sign work right there at 64 and 69. And what we're doing, it's part of the whole entire I-69 project, in that we have to update the signs to say you can get to Indianapolis here, because the Indianapolis part of I-69 finishes up this year.
Really?
Yeah, so right now it says, you can head north, and you can just head north. But before long, those will now say to Indianapolis, because the finish line project is what we call it, is wrapping up this year. So you'll be able to go from Evansville straight to Indy, all in one shot.
When is that supposed to be done? I mean, that's kind of, I know a lot of people who drive from Evansville to Indianapolis. So.
I'm one of them. They're expecting to finish that up this year. They're right now working on the interchange itself on 465.
So you say, are you meaning like by the end of December, or you think
Yeah,
before?
well, I would say safe bet is 2024.
Okay.
The end of 2024. Weather clearly can change that all up, as we've seen today. But yeah, that's the last time I've heard the end of the year. So we're all excited about it. That's actually a project that's not in our district, but I mean, it affects all of us, right?
Right.
So yeah, so we've got that one, and to just jump off that one. I've got a few, okay?
Okay.
So right out there, we'll start with State Road 57. We've got a closure out there near daylight. That project's still coming along pretty good. The end of May is when that'll be fixed up.
And what have they been doing there?
So they're basically doing a rehabilitation of a bridge, making sure the bridge is good to go. We've got to go through and do some paving and whatnot.
So how do you rehabilitate a bridge?
There's a lot of things. We fixed the deck. So that's basically the asphalt part across the bridge. It's a rehab, so it's not a complete taking down of the bridge and rebuilding it. So that's basically it, fixing the surface of the bridge. So yeah, the work's on schedule on there. And then just adjacent to that, we've got the Boonville New Harmony Road. The bridge that goes over I-69 is actually our bridge. So we're bringing that down to one lane of traffic starting next week to also do bridge maintenance on it. So we're doing what we call a bridge deck overlay, which is basically taking off all the asphalt and concrete and re-pouring it.
Putting it back on.
Putting it back on. And basically what that does is it maintains the bridge so that we don't have to completely rebuild it in a few years. We want to make sure that our bridges are safe and that they're well maintained, and that's part of the process.
Okay, is that the last of the big ones? Or
let me look. Yeah, I think we're good. Yeah, that's
Okay.
pretty much, and just to kind of finish it up on that, patience. We've got a lot of projects. Luckily, a lot of them are, bringing it down to one lane, but obviously that'll cause congestion.
We have to keep telling ourselves it's for the greater good.
Yeah, and I was just speaking to someone the other day, bridges or roads don't really care about the condition of other roads, so we have to maintain them at all times, make sure they're drivable. So sometimes there's no projects, sometimes they all happen at once. And unfortunately, right now there's a lot of stuff going on. Be patient, use 511in.org to see where our projects are. And yeah, just give yourself ample time.
Okay. Now, it says NDOT has announced or Evansville's going to have fast changing station or location. Is that right?
So I believe what we're talking about is the electric vehicle infrastructure project. So this is the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Project. This is something from the federal government to basically install electric vehicle charging stations throughout the state and throughout the country. The idea is to give, I believe it's 50 miles between each station to get rid of what we call deserts.
So if you don't run out of juice?
Don't run out of juice. So yeah, we've got the first ones were awarded. This is all funding from the federal government. We kind of act as a conduit, if you will. And so we've got a site near I-69 here in Evansville. That'll be on Green River Road. I believe it's at the Casey's there is getting it. So basically these organizations apply. So Casey's has got it. There'll be a site on I-64 at US 41 at the Loves station there. They'll be getting one. There's a site on I-64 near Ferdinand, and that's at a Quality Inn there. If you know the area there's a big hotel right there, and that's the one that's getting it. And the installations will begin in 2025. And the hope is basically making sure that people can be confident that if they get an electric vehicle, that they'll have a place to go. And also making sure that these charging stations are in good places, that they're in places that serve the entire community. It's not just, being installed in places where wealth is higher or lower or what have you. There's a lot of thought put into it, but that's so far where we're at.
Okay, well, those are important because they're really pushing people to get electric cars, and it doesn't do any good to have one if you can't charge it.
And I hear that all the time from folks who have electric cars or are thinking about getting them is, well, I don't know if I can get to point A to point B. So that's the idea, giving them that confidence.
Okay, well, you've made me feel more confident about what's going on. Thank you so much, as always.
Yeah, always glad to be here.
Thanks to our guests for joining us today to discuss local road projects. I'm April Nading. Thanks for watching WNIN Newsmakers.